Bates Motel series finale, The Cord. Now, it really sucks to see this show go. It has officially checked out, but after 5 years and 50 full episodes, it was a really great finale. They did a lot of crazy stuff. Every commercial break, I actually did a thing when I was watching it. I did like every break, I did like a little post on Twitter. But I think every chunk of this episode was really great. And of course, it started off pretty crazy. You know, we have Romero, and I knew he had to die. I knew somebody had to die. I was like, it's either going to be Romero or Dylan, because somehow there's going to be some sort of confrontation. Something's going to happen where one of them dies. I honestly, by the end of this, I really didn't expect it when Norman was killed. Like, I was hoping, because honestly, I was like, man, as much as he's the main character, he is the bad guy in this show. And I'm like, man, they can't kill Dylan and Romero, because Romero didn't get his chance. You know, he was heartbroken, and that was the crazy thing about it, because it's like, I know he's gonna die, because of course it starts off when he actually, you know, they get to the site where Norman is buried, and he pushes Norman out of the way. As soon as he did that, I was like, that's it, he's dead. But it didn't happen, you know, just then, and it was when he actually pulled her up, and he was completely destroyed because he's just crying, and I was like, he's too distracted now, because before he was mad, and you know, it's like he still could have taken Norman, but once it got to that point where he actually saw Norman's body and he was holding on to her, I was like, this is it for him, because he's way too distracted and it's not going to work. And naturally, that's exactly what happened. So before even the first commercial break, we see Romero get killed by Norman, and then we have like the ultimate reset. Apparently, I guess Norman was just like, well, you know, Norma kind of just left and was like, all right, well, we've killed enough people. You've learned everything. You like, I don't know. I guess I've taught you all the ways to kill now. Be free. And then she's gone. So he resets back to the beginning of the series, and we have him like when he wakes up. And I thought that may have been my second favorite part. It was like the whole second chunk of the episode, just because it was him super happy. But it was just like, man, this is insanely crazy. It's like this weird faulty optimism, like everything's just perfect again, because he just jumped backwards in time, and you know, he's actually talking to himself out loud, and you know, thinking he's talking to his mom, and he's driving in the car and stuff, and you know, he's just all beat up and everything, and it's just him happy and smiling. I'm just like, wow, this is insanely depressing. So of course he's going through this whole setup where, you know, he's just living basically in the first episode. He's reliving the first episode. And I love the way they did that. So of course they're going through, and we get to see Remo, which I thought was pretty cool. So Dylan ends up going to Remo. He gets a gun from him. They kind of talk about, you know, how things are going now. Remo works for an actual guy who legally grows weed and stuff, and he has a wife, he has a daughter. And, you know, they're both, like, they've gone from these characters in the crazy drug world of the city, and now they're both doing, you know, what they want to do. They're living pretty good lives, and Dylan kind of has to make this final decision as to what he's going to do with his brother, because he knows that the cops don't really care about him. That's obvious from the very beginning, and it makes a lot of sense because Norman's the crazy guy who's been killing people, so it kind of makes sense that the sheriff wouldn't care too much about him, but he's worried. He's like, I got to protect myself, but I do want to help my brother. And so, of course, he actually finds out that Norman is at the motel because, and I love the way they did this too. I was like, that's interesting, because you know, it goes through and Norman ends up checking in this woman and her two sons, and one is named Dylan, so that actually made him think of Dylan. He was like, hey, I know we left out of nowhere and stuff, but you know, I just wanted to call you. And I was like, that's actually a really cool way to do that, where he went back in time, and just because he heard Dylan, it was like, man, I should really call my brother. And it was just so different from, you know, how the series actually played out, because he was instantly reminded of his brother. So I was like, that's actually a cool way to do that. So Dylan, of course, knows exactly where he is. And I was freaking out. That whole conversation he was having with him, I was just like, oh man, I don't, like, he's asking, like, do I have a wife? And just say you love me and stuff. And she's like, I'm not going to, you know, pump you up so you can go do something crazy. And he still goes in and does it. And I was like, man, this is going to be insane. Because, of course, something's got to go wrong. Like, it would have been great if it could have been, like, a happy ending. But I'm like, I just don't think that's going to happen with this show. So, of course, he goes in and he's talking with Norman, and then he sees Norman's body and he throws up. And that's when he's yelling at Norman. And he's like, she's dead. Like, we can't be with her. We can't have the things that we want. I can't have, you know, us as a family and stuff like that, which was a really great moment. And it was just good. And then, of course, Norman picks up that knife, and I'm like, he can't, like, Dylan can't be so nice that he dies in this, because that would really, really suck if they did that. But Norman comes at him and he shoots him in the stomach and he actually kills him. And I love the way they ended it too, because it's Norman like running through the forest and he sees his mom, and then he hugs her and stuff, and he just tells Dylan thanks, and then he just dies. And I was like, man, that was a crazy ending. That was a very great way to end it. I actually had the single tear came out for that scene for sure, because I was like, I was freaking out the whole time, because I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna work. And then after it was all said and done, all I could think of was Dylan was in the crappiest position ever, where, you know, he knew that something was wrong, even, you know, even in the past, and they kind of reference that a little, where Emma says, you sound like Norma, and he was the one always trying to tell her, but, you know, ultimately they still left, and, you know, they just never went back, and it was just like, oh, you know, Norma and Norman are doing whatever, and then, you know, get this crazy shock that his mother's been dead for the past, like, 2 years and stuff. So he went through a lot in this one season alone, but he went through a lot as a character in general with this series. So just when it's him in the end and they just kind of pan back and it's just a dead Norma sitting in the chair and Norman's in his arms and he's just crying, I was like, this is a great shot. And it just kind of shows what that family's gone through, like just the madness that they've dealt with, not only in this series, but even, you know, some of the stuff we've seen through flashbacks that happened before the series officially began. So really love the way they ended it. You know, we get a little, you know, get a bit of a flash forward, you know, their daughter's grown up, so we get to see Emma and Dylan are happy together. You know, it was just crazy. It was just a crazy, great way to end it. You know, a lot of people were tweeting about how there was no official way that Dylan actually found out about Caleb, and I thought that was interesting. I was like, you know, that's actually kind of cool. You know, it's that weird, it's kind of like with Norma, where it's kind of left open for him, where it's just like, oh, well, Emma told him to leave, and so he's just out there, and that sort of thing, where it kind of repeats, and he just knows at some point he's probably dead. So I thought that was actually an interesting way to do it, because everyone that knew about it was either dead or crazy, you know, like Norman, and there are some more important things to do. They totally could have thrown it in there like a random thing or something, but I actually don't mind the fact that he didn't officially find out. I think it's actually kind of cool just because of the fact that his father dying is almost exactly the same as his mother dying, where he just had no idea, and it's just like, oh yeah, they left. So in a weird sense, it's like he kind of went through it with both his parents, and that's kind of why I like it a little bit, because it's the same sort of idea where they're just gone, but he doesn't know that they're dead gone. So I actually kind of like that it matches up that way. But really great ending. They drop an F-bomb early on in this episode. I was very surprised by that with Ramiro, where he calls Norman a sick fuck, and I was like, whoa, they dropped an F-bomb. So I thought that was pretty cool, but definitely a great episode. I had a really good time watching the special checking out thing that happened after the series finale as well. That was pretty cool to watch. But really good episode. I'm going to put a link in the description, because there's actually stuff that you can bid on from the series. I want to get some stuff. I don't know if I will, but I would love to get something that was from the show. Like they have, like, you know, all the room keys and stuff, you know, outfits that were worn on the show, license plates, all sorts of random stuff that you can do. So I put a link to that. I think it's like, it's still got over a week. It's got like 9 days or 8 days left on it. So there's lots of time, lots of stuff to bid on, tons of random stuff. I want something that actually says Bates Motel. That's what I'm trying to get, but of course all that stuff is like on the higher end as far as pricing. But really great show, and it's kind of cool to see that they're doing just a screen bid, so you can just bid on all random stuff that's been in the show, and it's pictures and notes and just all sorts of random stuff. It was amazing. Some of the stuff I saw in there, I was like, I don't even remember seeing that, but it was like they have ashtrays and stuff. I've been looking at something that I think I really want, something that I'd actually use too, and I was like, I might get that if I have the money. So I definitely put a link to that in the description, because, you know, if you like the show like I did, you might want to buy something if you have the extra money. They're even selling the car. I saw the car on there for like $9,000. Somebody put a bid in for that, and I was like, dang, that's already on sale. The couch is on sale. The neon sign is on sale for like somewhere in the thousands, and there were bids on all those things. I was like, man, people that watch this show have some money, because I got nothing. But really cool, so I'll put a link in the description to that. But really, really great series, great finale. You know, it's crazy. It's, you know, it's like this is the second show to end for me this year, and I have another one that's going to be ending in like another couple of weeks. It's like, it's crazy that 3 shows that I've been watching for years are all ending in the same year. So crazy year for me as far as my TV shows, but this is definitely a great finale. Of course, would love to know what you guys thought about it, and I definitely want to know what some of your favorite moments were from this series, favorite, kills and things like that, biggest surprises, returning characters. Just would love to know some of your favorite moments from the show. I think definitely one of my favorites was, I want to say it was season 2. I'm pretty sure it was season 2. Dylan and the whole drug thing, that was a really big part of the second season, and him meeting, the main woman and her brother being like absolutely insane. I believe that was season 2. It could have been season 3, but that was probably one of the best moments for Dylan, just because it was so absolutely insane, and what they were doing with that, it was like, it's hard to tell how this might play out, and just in the end, everybody just died, and he and Remo ended up surviving. It's just like, that was pretty crazy for them to have to deal with that. So that was certainly pretty nuts. Romero's murder when he killed the dude on the boat, that's definitely one of my favorite kills, just because I think it was so unique, where it was like he went out and he killed this dude, he takes the boat out, unplugs the thing, hops into a little boat, and it's just like, alright, well, I guess I'm out of here, and a boat just sinks in the water. So that's one of the many bodies that actually wasn't discovered in the show. But lots of crazy deaths, lots of crazy moments with Norman. Of course, the first season, the whole mystery about what in the world was going on with, I can't remember the guy's name because it was season 1, but the cop that actually kidnapped that young girl, that was a great little mystery, because it's like, is this really happening? Because, it was the first season and it was Norman going crazy. That was a great way to even start the series, because it's like, I don't know if this is real. Like, maybe there's a girl in that guy's basement. Maybe Norman wasn't even in that house, in that episode. So that was a great little mystery, how they kind of built that up for that first season, and we find out that Norman, of course, is crazy, but that actually did happen, and they did a great job with that sort of mystery in that first season, like what's real and what's not real, and then finding out that this guy does kidnap young people, or at least had that one girl in his basement, and it was just crazy. And it's like, okay, well, that's happening, and now he knows that Norman and Norman knows, so he's trying to kill them now, and Romero has to help them out, and it was just crazy. I was like, that was a really great start to just Norman's madness, where it's like, we can just throw in anything, and you just have to guess if it's real or not. So they did a great job just in the first season alone doing that. And all the characters that left and came back, Bradley, she came back and then got herself killed at the end of the season, which sucked for her. But just so many characters coming in and leaving and dying, and some characters surprisingly surviving. But it was definitely a good final season, good final episode. Like I said, of course, would love to know what you guys thought about the finale, and would love to hear some of your favorite moments from the series, whether it was, crazy deaths. Most of my stuff is just like crazy moments about the characters, but it could be simple stuff like Dylan and Emma being together is one of my favorite things. The fact that he actually survived, because I was super worried, because that would have been like the biggest thing if they killed Dylan. I think that would have had the greatest impact as far as character deaths, because outside of Norma, I would say Dylan was like the most, well, I guess Emma would be like the most innocent character, but as far as characters that I actually thought would die, it was kind of like, it's Norma, Dylan, and then Romero, and I didn't think Norma would die either until, it actually happened at the end. But this whole season, I was like, it's going to be either Romero or Dylan, or both of them are going to die, and I was super happy that Dylan made it, and he got to be with his wife and child, and I just thought that was really good. But we'd love to know your favorite moments from the series, favorite moments from this episode, and just what you thought about it in general. So please comment below, let me know. And of course, thanks for watching.